Okay, so my presentation today is going to be on concussions. And to start this presentation, I wanted to have you imagine a situation that a concussion would occur in. So imagine you're a football player, wide receiver, you're on offense, and you're running down the field for a pass and you cut in running your route. You reach out to grab the ball, and when you catch it, you immediately turn, and when you're turning, a defensive back hits you right in the head with their helmet. This is a prime scenario for a concussion to occur. Now, when we're talking about a concussion, the definition, like a solid definition of a concussion, would be a direct or indirect blow to the brain, causing it to shake inside the skull, thus causing it to have altered function. Now, when this happens, there's going to be many signs and symptoms of having a concussion. So when you're out on the field, you want to just have 10 off the top of your head that you can remember to ask them right away. So the biggest thing that you want to remember is headache, because the biggest sign of a concussion is having a headache. That's probably one of the key symptoms that they will have. They could also have nausea or vomiting, dizziness, irritability, sensitive to light. They could be more emotional. If this is maybe a next day kind of scenario, you could ask them if they've had lack of sleep or if it was easy for them to fall asleep. You will also want to check and see if they've been having balance problems as well. Now, when you're asking them these questions, you can ask them to rate it on a scale of 1 to 6, 1 being, or actually even 0 to 6. So 0 being that they don't have the symptom, and 6 being that it is very severe. Now, when you're asking the patient about these signs and symptoms, you're going to want to ask it in a question every single time. So you're going to want to ask, do you have a headache? Do you have nausea? Have you been vomiting? You want to ask it in a very question format. Now, also when you're on to the evaluation and management of a concussion, you want to go through the history, so you want to ask those symptom questions like I just went over. And you're also going to want to ask if they have a past history with concussions as well, just because if they've had a concussion already, they are prone to having more. For observation, you're going to want to look to see if they have any bruising on their skull. You can check behind the ear on the mastoid process for battle sign. There's also Halo's ring, which is when they have cerebral spinal fluid dripping out of their nose. You're going to want to check and see if they're having pinpoint pain in a certain spot, because that could be that they're having a fracture there. So you want to try and rule out all of this. When you're doing your palpations, you're going to want to palpate the mandible, the maxilla, the nasal bone, sphenoid, frontal, parietal, temporal, and occipital bones, as well as, depending on if they have neck pain, the C1 through 7 spinal processes, and the transverse processes as well. Now, muscles that you're going to want to check right away, just in case if they are having neck pain, would be the levator scapula, the sternocleidomastoid, and the upper traps, because the shock of if the head whipped, those muscles could be having spasm. Now, for management, if you're suspecting that the patient has a concussion, you do not want them to go back in, because they could get second impact syndrome and possibly die from this. So if you suspect a concussion, take them out, especially if they're showing a lot of multiple signs and symptoms of having a concussion. When it comes to referral, you're going to want to referral all depends on your plan that you have with your team physician. If your physician says that if you suspect them of having a concussion, then you treat it your way, it's your call pretty much. But if the physician says, I want you to bring them to me, I want you to refer them to me, then you have to refer the athlete to the physician so the physician can look at them. Now, when a patient is diagnosed with a concussion for treatment, you want to have them rest. You want to have them rest because you need the brain to go back to its normal state, and rest is the best thing for it. It's like if you injure a body part, like if your muscles are tight, you rest. You want them to not be sore anymore. It's the same concept with your brain. Your brain's hurting, so you rest it. You don't try and look at lights. You don't try and watch TV. You don't go to school. Sometimes and that depends on the severity, though. You really just need to rest your brain, rest all your mental processes and physical. I get like working out. Like you don't want to do that either. You just rest and hope, and your brain will heal over time. Now, when you get to the return to play, your patient has to be symptom-free. So after you have diagnosed them as symptom-free, the next day you can have them start doing light aerobic exercises like doing stationary biking, walking, just doing light exercises. And if they are symptom-free after that, you can advance them to the next day. If they are not, you continue to rest them. So if they're symptom-free, you can move them on to the next day, which is going to be sport-specific exercise. So this is going to be like having them do cutting drills. If it's a soccer player, you can have them working with the ball a little bit. You're going to have them doing this for roughly 30 to 40 minutes, just trying to get them their heart rate increased, trying to get them into more physical activity, and trying to see if those symptoms are coming back or if they're symptom-free. If they're symptom-free still, you can move them on to the next day. You can move them even further along into non-contact drills. So non-contact drills mean that they can practice with the team as long as they are not being hit. Yeah, pretty much they're not being hit. They're working with the team again. And then if they're symptom-free, they can continue on to the next day. If they're not, they have to rest. So the next day they can do full contact practice, and if they're symptom-free and nothing happens, then they're clear to go again. They're all go. They can get back out to playing. So overall, concussions are a very serious injury, but if managed properly, it's not as severe as it could be. Thank you.